This is a tutorial for um, the book Nanobrain, the making of an artificial brain from time crystal. And I will create 10 videos as a tutorial, because many of the readers who have read this book, they said that the book must be accompanied by a tutorial that will guide through all the figures and main sections of each chapter, so that it is it is not required for a reader to read everything and then understand. Instead, they will have the book in hand, and they would look at every single section and then listen to what I'm talking about it, and then they would get into the topic. So the requests were plenty from in the social media from different friends who purchased the book. So when I'm making this tutorial, it's essential that you have the book with you, else you will not be able to understand what I'm talking. And so I will start today from chapter 1. So chapter 1 is basically the introduction of the book, and the chapter 1 title is Philosophical Transformation Essential to Reverse Engineer Consciousness. So basically what we have in the entire book is summarized here. In the section 1.1, if you go to section 1.1, you will find that how do we differ from the existing worldview. So basically we are saying that in the Turing philosophy that was there for the last 100 years, we do not think that all the events that are happening in the universe, you can split them into small events and you can add them one after another. So if you have been doing that in building equations and physics laws, and then all the mathematical models, economic models, and then all the things everywhere in the world, of whatever be the subject of knowledge, you have been taking the events and then splitting it up into small events, and you are inherently, whether you know it or not, doesn't matter, but knowingly or unknowingly, what you have been doing is you are splitting the events and then adding them together. So as if you inside yourself you considered that events could be split into small parts and could be added one after another. So sequentially you can add them, and then you will get back the reality. So we are saying this is totally wrong. It's impossible. So that means this whole branch of practices where you are making equations is wrong. So what we are saying is that events, suppose you are seeing an event, that event will have some more event inside. And if you take one event, and you will find more events inside. So that's why all the events, when you put them together, it creates a 3D topology or a higher dimensional topology, where every single point considers is an event. If you look at the cover page of this book, then you will find that there are many red dots. So all those things are different possibilities of events, and then we have tried to map all these possibilities of events which are interconnected with each other, and we always go inside and inside and inside and inside. So journey is within and above, not horizontal. So that's why it is very different from the kind of scientific approach there were in reverse engineering the human brain. So basically this is very important. And so this is 1.1 where we discussed about it. And then in the figure 1, in the page 2, the figure 1, there are 10 ways we are different, not just within and above. We introduce a new kind of metric. So in the astrophysics, you know that there is a metric. Metric is a Greek word. It means distance. So basically, what you do is you know space and time. You want to correlate it. So in astrophysics, they were there. But here we introduce a new kind of metric. We call it phase prime metric. So basically, we take primes, and then we try to find out that when primes multiply to create integers, what are the different ways of arranging them. Why we want to do it? Because if events are there randomly and you want to link them by itself, because you want to make an artificial brain. The brain will operate by itself. There should not be any software code or anything else. So what you got to do is you have to link those events. So how do you do that? So you take the event, convert it into geometric shape, and then you find out what are the symmetries are there, link it with integers, then go back to primes, and then you find out the pattern of primes. So the pattern of primes never repeat, and then it creates a temple-like architecture. That is the cover page of the book. And then that architecture is basically the foundation or core structure of self-operating system, self-operating universe, mathematical universe. And we try to realize it experimentally by different ways. So number 3 is rejection or collapse. So in this new idea of computing, we don't reject. Just like in normal computer, what you do, you have many choices. You start and with logic, with fact, you remove the facts, many facts, and then you come up with this set of things are actually the reality. So that you don't do. That's number 3. So geometric network of events is actually the reality, and then we get into that, and then we try to find out how the geometrically different events are related. We are not interested in rejecting or something. We are interested how to link them in a higher dimensional topology. That's our only objective. Number 4 is geometric musical language of the universe. So basically, we say that logic is not important. So we get back to the ancient Hindu practices where they were not interested in the fact or truth. They were interested in those kind of situations of an event where multiple possibilities coexist. So they call it sandeha or suspicion or confusion. And they worked for 3,000 years. Many schools of thoughts came, and then they said that, look, there is confusion or singularity. Always imagine throughout the book, always you will encounter singularity. You don't bother about it. You just think that singularity means confusion. Okay, so suppose you have a circle, you have periodic set of events are happening, and then you find one confusion, another confusion, 3 confusions. So you get a triangle. So in this way, we create the geometric shapes throughout the book, and then you get you rotate through confusions, one confusion to another, just like a clock. So that is the music. So geometry, music, and then when you express every single event in the universe with this particular methodology, we call it geometric musical language. Okay, so that's number 4. Number 5 is time crystal made of phase singularity is fundamental. So so it's not that you would go to find space, time, and other things. So space, time, topology, prime, 4 parameters instead of 2, space and time. 4 parameters we take, and we take time crystal. So that means whole brain, we will have an alternate clock-like architecture. So I reject entire hardware that the body that you have, and then we represent the whole body in terms of clocks or clock-based architectures. So it's a completely new way of looking into biology. So you look at a biological component and you remove it, and you come back with a clock-like architecture to represent that biological organ. So this is we call it a time crystal. Time crystal is not invented by us. It was in the 1970s. People came up to explain the intelligence of virus. They came up that there should be a clock and there should be a singularity point. Singularity point means suppose a clock is rotating, and at a particular point you don't know what is the time. Okay, so it happens because 2 clocks are interacting, another clocks are interacting, and then they create a situation when you don't know which clock is supposed to be true, just like confusion. Okay, so this is so there was a concept of only 1 clock, and then we have introduced how could you put many large number of clocks. We call it universal time crystal. So that is kind of the 5th point where this book differs from the other works that have been done. And number 6 is geometric algebra. Now what happens is when you have these circles and then singularity points and clock. So suppose I'm trying to create an artificial brain. What do I have to do? I have to create a mathematical world, a set of algebra where only drawing the circle would be allowed, because I cannot write equations. Equations are for that kind of universe where you have events happening one after another or sequentially. But when you have within and above, then differentiation, you cannot define them. and many things you cannot do. So we need a whole new branch of mathematics where a kid in a futuristic school will have a paper and a pen, and then he will draw the circles and do the mathematics. So that kind of mathematics have been invented. We call it a geometric algebra. And then we go for higher dimensions. For an example, in string theory, what you had is a 8-dimensional tensor and then 4-dimensional tensor, and you couple them, 4-dimensional space-time tensor and then 8-dimensional space-time tensor, and you couple them with a factor, wrap factor it is called, and then you explain the 12-dimensional or 11-dimensional universe. Don't worry much about 11, 12, or 10 at this particular point of time. We know the differences, and then we can handle it quite well. Now the point is, here in this book, when we have approached the brain, we found that we cannot do that particular manipulation which was used in string theory. We need to go to 12 dimension. When you go to the 12 dimension, 12 can be like 2 into 2 into 3, 3 into 2 into 2, 2 into 3 into 2. So you can group in 3 different ways these different dimensional universes. And then what happens is the dynamics that you get, or that you generate by operating this kind of tensors is beautiful. It creates multiple simultaneously coexisting solutions or universes that was otherwise not possible if you take 80 dimension and 4 dimension. So in that sense, number 6, the geometric algebra is very unique. So for 200 years, people knew about the Dodecanian algebra, octonian algebra, quaternion algebra, but we create a new algebra that is Dodecanian algebra. Then electronics or photonics, we come up with 4-circuit element. 4-circuit element, memory star very well, that you store charge, and then the resistance would change, the electrical resistance, the flow of electrons. But we say that is not the true 4-circuit element. You store the charge, and after you store the charge, not the current flow, but if you put light or electromagnetic wave, then magnetic vortex will be created, and that vortex will get different shapes, so different quantity of magnetic vortices will be generated. So that is the kind of new kind of 4-circuit element that we have invented. So that is there, the 7th point. The 8th point is that fractal condensation. So you have clock inside a 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 clock. So what happens is that at every different layer, materials condense, the vibrational spectrum or vibrational bands, they collapse. So what you do is, when you encounter this kind of situation, your Hamiltonian is very different, and then many different higher dimensions collapse happens together. So for an example, third layer imaginary world interacts with the 10th layer of imaginary world, and then that affects actually 7th layer of imaginary world. So it's a completely different kind of interaction that we would encounter. So that is number 8. So it's a different kind of fractal condensation, and different kind of things happen. Then knots of darkness is number 9. So clocking of silent or dark knots by multi-layered interference. So information is written in the empty space. So another very interesting feature are that when you interfere 2 different electromagnetic waves at certain positions, there is a destructive interference. So you get a dark knot, or you get very bright regions. So these dark nodes, using these dark nodes, you can create a different kind of topologies, and you can write information over there. So in the silence region, where supposed to not to be any information, so we do that. In other words, number 9 point is about artificial atoms. You take artificial atoms that is made of field distribute in such a way that you can consider it as an atom. So different kind of this kind of field distribution, they come together, and then they create a new kind of material science. So that is made of field or artificial atom based material synthesis. So these materials, you cannot see it, but if you have a sensor, you can measure it. Oh, yeah, it looks like this. It can really happen with optical light. People have shown this. Number 10, the last point, is resonances are discrete. So basically, one system, a biological system, when it resonates, it can resonate at electrical resonance, mechanical resonance, magnetic resonance. So many different kind of resonances could happen, and they all would involve in creating artificial atoms and artificial materials, and then they would interact with each other following some identities, and that's how the life is governed. So this is the 10 point. So these are the kind of 10 different views that have been explored in this book, and this is the figure 1.1 I explained. Now I will the go to the next section where 1.2, 10 research fields that we have covered here. One is fractal information theory. Just like you had in 1945 Shannon's information theory, we had to build another information theory. We didn't have any choice. So so figure 1.2 is about outlining 10 different fields. So new information theory we had to give. Roger Penrose have always been talking about going beyond quantum mechanics, and many people have argued similar to him, that this quantum mechanics is not complete. We need to go for other kind of mechanics. But here we have a different situation. We have universe inside an universe, inside an universe, inside an universe. So it's undefined situations, and 12-dimensional or 11-dimensional world where different dimensional universes are interacting with each other. So in that sense, we have to build a suitable mechanics so that we can explain the dynamics, because for every single new kind of dynamics, you need to build or invent a new kind of mechanics. Otherwise, you can't do it. So here, from fractal mechanics, which has some certain features of classical mechanics and certain features of quantum mechanics, and certain unique features which you cannot find in either in classical mechanics or quantum mechanics, that is there. So number 3 is language of time crystals. So basically, we need a language. Suppose biological systems are interacting with each other and developing intelligence. Imagine there is not a single line of code. Everything in the brain is vibrating, and then they are building up. They are understanding everything. How is it possible? It is possible only if you have a new language. So that time crystal language we have invented here. Human brain model. So suppose time crystal or the composition of clocks is everything. Then we have to replace whole brain and body neural network, and then replace it with a time crystal based model. So that we have to create, because if you want to make an artificial brain, the first question that people would ask that what brain are you going to make? What is your model? What is your principle that you will make artificially? Otherwise, when a baby is born, of course the brain is made. People can take artificial womb and then take the gene and then build up the brain, and they can modify in animals brain of the animals, and then they can do it. So number 5 is geometric algebra. So as I explained above, regarding 10 concepts that we need to draw circles or clocks. Because why do we want to create new algebra only by drawing circles? All the complex mathematics would be done, because then you can take materials, and materials would spontaneously vibrate and do those mathematics. So basically that's the reason. So you won't require a computer even. So 4 circuit element, that's a new kind of device that the new kind of what's the magnonics, that will be the best term. You store the charge and let the magnetic field do its job, its topological job. That will be a great thing to do. And then number 7 is thermal energy harvesting machine. So basically what we do is thermal energy means at room temperature. If you have 30 degrees Celsius temperature, then actually you are actually in the ocean. You are dipped in the ocean of 5 to 6 terahertz electromagnetic signal, which actually is a heat region. So that is pumped to every single protein, every single molecule, other things. So if you can make motors and machines similar to that, which can harvest that kind of vibrations and help the cause of information processing, that would be very good. So we built several such machines, and then that is part of this book, musical nanobots. So basically we created several nano machines, very, very small, tiny 10 nanometer machines. It has a sensor, it has multi-level switch, mm, um, it has motors, molecular motors to work with, because we just wanted to understand at the elementary level, can we realize a life form? And then if the consciousness emerges, then how it will happen? The number 9 is cascade condensation theory, fractal chemical kinetics and condensation. Fractal chemical kinetics is like a reaction is happening, a reaction proceeds, and then when the reaction is happening, there are many, many sub-steps of reaction. And if you take one of the sub-steps, it has other kind of sub-steps of reactions. So in different imaginary worlds or different dynamics, layers of dynamics or different dimensions, reactions are happening, or self-assembly and then condensation is happening at a different levels. So what will be the reaction kinetics then? That is a very interesting chemistry question, and we have addressed that field here. And then communication through beyond nerve impulse. So in neurophysiology study, we had to do, because neuron skin is said to be doing everything in information processing, but we say that inside the neuron membrane there are filaments, and those filaments vibrate and help the membrane to tune time. So that's a very big claim, very major claim, and that helps us to create a situation where membrane, nowadays in the current neuroscience model, membrane is active and everything inside are silent. That is not true. We are saying that you go inside and inside and inside and inside. In their time domain, they are doing something, but that is not isolated. In the time domain, there is a relationship. You go to the single protein level, inside the single protein secondary structure level, and you go to above protein level, filamentary level, and then you go to the cellular level, and then tissue level. So every higher you go into different organ levels, they are doing their own work in a different distinct time domain, but they have a relationship, all of them down to the bottom most to the topmost. Okay, so this is figure 1.2. Now we come to 1.3, the universe within and above, not side by side, as I said. So I have taken time here to explain why different probability theorems and use of probability theorem in understanding the human brain is not good, because probability, when you are calculating it, you are using human observation itself. So human is biased. That means you are biased when you are recording it. Then you can ask that why your brain model is your brain model is not doing that. No, you are not doing it. So now we come to figure 1.3, and here we are showing what I have been telling all the way, that events are one inside another, and when different events are connected by topology, different geometries and different dimensions of layers, and then if they are inside singularity of other kind of different events, so when that event becomes undefined, when then this particular event becomes active. So these are kind of situation where Turing based computing does not consider. They always define. So what happens is, inside, if you have a cube, you can take a corner, go inside, you can find another cube, you can go inside another cube. So 8 to the power 8 to the power 8 to 8 is more than the particle of this universe. So this is figure 1.3 C. So chapter 1 and the third figure, and then C, you can find what happens at this point of time. And now 1.3.1, what a Turing-based worldview does not consider, that I explained to you. Basic questions to answer, 10 popular human brain models. So there are many people who have come up with many different kind of brain models. There is no end to it. Every person has their own ideas. So I have tried to compile I have tried to respect every single research that has been done. So basic questions to answer. What is how the information of unit of information looks like in nature? How does it integrate? How biomaterials integrate them actually? And then, is there any universal language to integrate this information? And can we have any mechanics by which this natural vibration of the biomaterials actually generate that language, so that they can speak with each other? And can we have a decision-making protocol where you don't need to learn anything and you do it? So figure 1.4C, if you look at it, It's beautiful because the two sides you will find two temple-like architectures. Those are phase prime matrices, and then they actually represent two different humans. So this human is creating a time crystal, universal time crystal, or the clock architecture, and sending to that person, and that person is absorbing it. Not that person, the phase prime metric hidden inside that person. So this picture actually very favorite. I mean, and to me, so this is 1.4C, and then 1.4D is actually the magnetic ring that we are a magnetic vortex that we want to create. So magnetic field goes in a line, but if they interfere, and then it creates lines of field in a loop, complex loop, but you can give it a ring shape like optical vortex, and you can build up enormous things. So optical vortex like magnetic vortex creation has not been done. We are the only group in the world to have experimentally realized this, and then we patented this, and then we have been working on this particular thing. So so we will now go to figure 1.5. There are many different models that are existing and done by great scientists. I have compiled it here, how they have tried to do it. 1.4.1, what does information look like in nature? It's just like a time crystal with a singularity point. Singularity means confusion. Confusion means there are equal probabilities. So so Wheeler, John H. Wheeler, his name will come in this book many times. What is a time crystal? I have defined it here at page 14 of the book. And a time crystal is very easily, if you have a clock that is repeating continuously. So just like atom repeats itself, the clock repeats itself because it is rotating continuously. So that's how it is created. It's a simple way to understand. So figure 1.5 is a cartoon where you can see see what happens in classical and quantum. In quantum, you need gods to collapse everything simultaneously. And in classical, you need two gods, that is figure 1.5C, where one god is supplying the tape and another god is wrapping up the tape. And then figure 1A is actually our kind of situation, kind of where you go inside and inside and inside and inside and inside, and you find there are a finite number of singularity points, or so it's vertical and horizontal both. But one thing that you have to notice that in figure 1.5A is that in reality you see only one vertical tip. Okay, you can't see the whole thing. Okay, at a time. And one to many, many to one, you can make a conversation because 1.D. So now we come figure 1.6. Here the Vedic philosophy and frequency fractal philosophy. So this two we have put them together. That how frequency fractal philosophy that is existing everywhere. I mean, many people have been working on fractal universe. Our difference with all these researchers is that people talk about fractal means you physically look like it is a spatial, but for us it is temporal. That means when you look at the structures, they may not be similar or self-similar, but when you vibrate them like a tuning fork, and then you will find the vibrations of this cluster and that cluster and that cluster, they have a self-similarity in the vibrational pattern. So that's very different. Frequency fractal is very different than normal fractal concept. So brain-inspired computing or Nanobrain, we compile whole thing, and then how you can traverse this figure 1.6D. This table chart is there where every part of it is already described in details in the book. Energy transmission in the brain, it's not about the neuron skin. So if you get time, we did it. You take energy for every single part of it, and you will find that all different kind of events actually almost equally share the energy. So it's not that neuron skin is occupying all the energy. So that would tell you that our path is not too radical. So if you look at figure 1.8a, 1.7a, then you will find that we have plotted from the existing reports on how the energy is distributed for different factors, and then you will find that um, uh, very interesting thing in that soliton propagation or lattice defect due to Glial or lattice energy, we have to give it maximum share apart from actin plus microtubule based electromagnetic, because what we did is we actually calculated that how many filaments are there in the brain and how much energy they can get from the thermal energy. So basically the thermal energy that is coming to the brain, and the chemical energy only goes to the neuron firing. So we give all the energy to the neuron firing, but we check the thermal energy that filaments and other components are getting. And then when we compare the ionic versus this mechanical and something, so this plot is very near and dear to me. This plot actually suggests that solitons, we have not included that soliton part in this particular book very well, but there are many researchers who have done this work. So I'm saying that that part is there, and then electromagnetic part of this orange color, this microtubule actin and many filaments. So they do contribute significantly because the energy distribution is huge. So in the B, in the figure 1.7b, you can see that a triplet of triplet resonance band, one inside. It's good. So in figure 1.7c, I have shown that you go inside the cortical column, you find another triplet, and then you go inside and find another triplet. So layer by layer, you go and find the resonance band. And then when you try to go for this new kind of computing that we are talking about, the very known words that you always use, like algorithm, logic gate, extrapolation, program, computing time, halting, these kind of terms, beat, qubit, or switch, lexicon, rules, these will not be required, but something which you never use, you do not want to use in formal computing would be required, like logically circular, undefined, infinity, singularity, imaginary. So this kind of things would be more important. So let's go to the to figure 1.8, where we have shown the whole human brain model. You start from the whole human body, and clockwise, if you rotate from the human body and you go to inside, you cover different time domains, but they have a pattern. So if you go to the central region of the wheel, then you can find a triplet of triplet. Triplet of triplet is not the only vibrational pattern that we observed experimentally. There are many other triplet of pentate, pentate of heptate. So this kind of are there, but the probability is very less, energy is very less. So if you want to do experiment and reproduce our result, you can easily see the triplet of triplet. You will definitely observe doublet of triplet, triplet of triplet, doublet of doublet. So these kind of things you can find a lot. So here we also have doublet. You can see at the very central region, you have doublet of triplet and triplet of doublet. So these kind of things are there. But if you go higher level, then you find triplet of triplet. But this is a very dominating field that you will observe. And then there are three different kind of topologies: quaternion, octonion, and the dodecahedron. And icosonion is also there. So we take this kind of tensors to understand how the brain would work. So three concepts that define the human brain. That is the last section of this chapter. And here we have taken three different research. One is four circuit element. We have a new kind of four circuit element. That is one of the fundamental aspects of building an artificial brain. Then phase prime metric, and then geometric musical language, that language of the time crystals. So pattern of primes, that is the cover page of the book. And then the four circuit element is the elementary device. So capacitor, inductor, and register, you knew for last 150 years, mankind knew, but we are suggesting that you do for new kind of four circuit element, not the memristor, because memristor is a normal electronic device where you store the charge and then you try to flow electron. But for us, electron never flows because charge is stored, and that will be hampered if you flow the electron. Instead, you send light, split the light into two parts, using the magnetic part, you interfere them, and then create new kind of geometric structures, and that becomes your information, and that becomes quantity. So you correlate stored charge, The stored charge is kind of the way you manipulate the hardware, and then the software, the way it processes is the geometric shape. So this is kind of a summary of the book, and then I have ended this chapter, the chapter 1, with the three religions that we are attacking, like magnetic light, a pattern of all the possible choices to ergo petals, and three religions are a religion of Turing, religion of Hodgkin-Huxley, and then religion of Darwin. So basically, what we are saying is that all clocks are there. We do not reject the choices. So you will, if you read several top class papers, they use Darwin theorem in a way that two proteins are interacting and one protein dominates, and then the other protein goes away, as if why do they do it and how it passes through peer review, I don't know. But this kind of views we're trying to change. So all the components have some contribution or others, and in the topology, if we map, if we find the contribution, that's why Darwin word is used. It's not to challenge that, oh, Darwin's evolution is wrong. No, it's not about that. It's that rejection. It is a message to those scientists who have used Darwin's theorem to say that this particular gene actually fights with another gene, and then another fight and goes, no. We want to see it completely different way, that all of them, all the genes, they contribute in a topological manner. So if you consider this kind of features, then these are the genes that will be activated, and others. Turing, we say that events are not linearly programmable. And then Hodgkin-Huxley, we say that the membrane alone is not everything. The filaments and other components inside and does help in tuning the time. So these are the three religions where if you challenge, then you will be outcast. What we are saying is that we are going to show different perspective of it. We are not saying that they are wrong, but we are saying that there could be an alternative way of looking into the system and build engineering or reverse engineer the brain. So that's the kind of message of this particular chapter. So I ended this book with Leibniz, what he said. Although the whole of this life was said to be nothing but a dream, and the physical world nothing but a phantasm, I would call this dream or phantasm real enough if using well. We were never deceived by it. Okay. So that's the end of it, and thank you very much for listening. I will come back with chapter 2.